Welcome. Today we will begin with a chapter from class 10 ICSE Biology, Chemical Coordination in Plants. So let us first begin with two terms that you will get later. See over here. The principle that every action has a reaction. You must have heard about this. This applies to plants too. Here, the action is caused by changes in external as well as internal factors of the plant. Such actions are called stimuli, and reactions to stimuli are called responses. So the external or internal factors that is causing the changes is the stimuli, and the change that occurs because of the stimuli is called a response. Plants naturally do not need a very fast response to small changes in the immediate environment like animals do. The plants are different in that case. But they do need to respond to light, gravity, and seasonal changes. So the changes you see are very gradual changes. They are not very sudden movements that the plant will need to respond to it. They also need to coordinate growth of the cells in various parts of the plant body. Though plants do not appear to have a nervous system or sense organs, their sensitivity and coordination is a result of chemical control exercised by plant hormones. So you can really see that plants don't have a nervous system or sense organs the way we do, the way animals do. It's not a separate thing in them. They're sensitive, but they do show sensitivity and coordination like we do. They do sense things like light and changes around it, and the coordination of which part should grow, which part should ripen. That does occur, although they don't have the systems. That becomes a result of the chemical control by plant hormones. Okay. Plants respond to stimuli by producing chemical compounds called hormones that work as messengers. Okay, so hormones are the chemical compounds that will work as messengers in plants. These compounds are similar to the hormones found in animals. Hormones are found in animals too. They are produced in one area of the plant, transported around the body of the plant, and have their effects at a location far away from their site of production. So at one part of the plant, these hormones are produced and then they get transported through the vascular system. And the effect of this hormone produced at one particular site is seen somewhere far away from that site. The main way in which plants respond to these hormones is by growth. In most cases, the response for this hormone also becomes a stimulus for something to occur. So the response to hormones is mainly by growth in plants. In some cases, growth is stimulated, while in others, it is inhibited. Inhibited means it gets stopped. Sometimes one side of a plant grows more than the other, which results in the bending of the shoot. We'll come to these things. The main areas of growth, that is, growth means of course cell division. Cell division will occur, the cell numbers increase, and that part grows. This main area of growth in plants are the meristems. You know, these areas occur just behind the tip of a shoot or root. The meristematic tissue, the places where they exist. These meristems are sensitive to hormones. The hormones help to stretch the cellulose walls of the meristematic cells to facilitate division. Last year you must have read that the meristematic tissue itself is very it facilitates division very easily because of the features that it has. Plants respond to a variety of stimuli. They are sensitive to light. Plants respond to the direction from which light comes. You have heard about sunflowers. The intensity of the light and the length of daily exposure to it. They are also sensitive to water, temperature, gravity, etc. Different parts of the same plant may react differently to the same stimulus. For example, the roots grow towards the light, but the shoots grow towards the light, but the roots grow away from it. So we'll come to this also in a later part of the chapter. Now, let's focus on this. Chemical factors responsible for the plant growth are called hormones. The term hormone was first used by William Bayliss and Ernest Starling in 1902. The term phytohormone, which comes from the Greek word phyton, which means plant, was coined to distinguish them from animal hormones. Okay, so the Greek word phyton means plant, from which the term phytohormone came, meaning literally plant hormone. This was termed to distinguish them from animal hormones. So the hormones found in animals, and this can be distinguished very separately. So the hormones that we will be reading about today is exclusively phytohormones. The first hormone is auxin. So the term auxin was first coined by F.W. Wendt in 1928 from the Greek word auxein, which means to grow. So the Greek word auxein means to grow. So the main function that auxin causes is growth. It is the first growth hormone discovered in plants. Auxins are powerful growth stimulants and are quite effective at extremely low concentrations. So powerful growth stimulants and can be quite effective at very low concentrations even. Auxins are universally distributed in higher plants as well as in lower plants like algae, fungi, etc. So this is seen in both types, the higher plants as well as the lower plants. In higher plants, they are present more actively in the growing regions like the shoot apex, root apex, lateral meristems, etc. IAA, that is indole 3 acetic acid, is the main natural auxin found in plants. Remember, this as at most of the times comes as a short form, and you will be asked to expand it. You will be asked to write the full form of it. So IAA is indole 3 acetic acid. This is the main natural auxin that is found in plants. Auxins promote growth in plants by cell elongation. The way by which these promote growth is by cell elongation. During this process, the cell wall is extensively increased. Elongation, the cell wall has to be increased so that this thing gets longer. This hormone induces cell wall loosening or relaxation. So as the cell wall loosens or relaxes, you can understand it will be easier to get stretched and get elongated. Plant cell wall gets stretched like rubber when put under tension. Rate of cell elongation is proportional to auxin concentration. That means as the auxin concentration increases in one part of it, the rate of cell elongation will also increase. This is directly proportional. Stem cell elongation requires more auxin in comparison to roots. In roots, the amount of auxin for a cell elongation is less. The requirement is less. In the stem region, when auxin is required for cell elongation, the amount is required to be more in comparison to roots. Flowers require still higher concentration of auxins. Auxins also delay the falling of leaves. Okay, so auxins also delay the falling of leaves. Auxins play another important role in plants known as apical dominance. So the phytohormone responsible for apical dominance is auxin. In majority of vascular plants, apical buds dominate over lateral buds. The growth of lateral buds occurs only after the removal of apical buds. This phenomenon of the suppression of growth of lateral buds by apical buds is called apical dominance. So let's see this again. The growth of lateral buds, the apical buds are at the tip, the lateral buds are after that. So the growth of the lateral buds can only occur after the removal of apical buds. Okay, so until and unless the apical buds are removed, the growth of the lateral buds gets suppressed. So this phenomenon is called apical dominance. So auxin plays a major role in apical dominance. Also, auxins can induce fruit formation without fertilization in fruits like apples, tomatoes, bananas, etc. These fruits, they don't require fertilization to get formed. Such development of fruits without fertilization is called parthenocarpy. and the fruits are called parthenocarpic fruits. So what is parthenocarpy? Development of fruits without the fertilization is called parthenocarpy, and such fruits will be called parthenocarpic fruits. So auxins induce parthenocarpy. So next we move on to another phytohormone called gibberellin. Gibberellins are another kind of plant hormone. There are different forms of gibberellins reported from different plants, named as GA1, GA2, GA3, and so on. However, gibberellic acid, GA3, is the most studied form. In higher plants, gibberellins are mainly distributed in meristematic regions like the stem apex, root apex, buds, seeds, etc. The plants where growth occurs highly. The stem apex, that is the stem tip, the root apex, that is the root tips, buds, of course, new buds, they are growing, seeds, they also need to grow in order to get formed into a plant. So these are highly meristematic regions where these gibberellins are actually mainly found. Their main function is to promote, again, growth of internodes by cell elongation. So this is a slightly different thing. Growth of internodes occur here. By cell elongation, they promote fruit growth, break seed dormancy, and initiate germination. Remember these points. It promotes the growth of internodes by cell elongation. It promotes fruit growth. It also breaks seed dormancy. You know what seed dormancy is? Seed dormancy is the period before the seed begins to germinate. That is, before it gets the suitable or favorable conditions around it, the seed remains in a dormant stage. So this gibberellin helps to break this seed dormancy stage when the suitable surrounding conditions are available to the seed, and they initiate germination. So after the seed dormancy is broken, of course something has to happen in the seed. So the next step is germination. These gibberellins, they also help in initiating germination. They also delay senescence. This is a term that probably you have, this is a new term probably you have come across. You might find it in other places as well. Senescence means aging, that is growing older. So this gibberellin, it prevents the aging of a plant or parts of the plant. So the things like that happen with aging, that is drying of leaves and all the time period of that occurring gets reduced. The aging, that thing, it occurs later. It stays fresh and healthy and younger for longer period of time. It stays functional for a longer period of time. Like auxins, gibberellins are also capable of inducing parthenocarpy, but the main cause of parthenocarpy is generally auxins. Gibberellins are also capable of doing it. Gibberellins are plant hormones which are widely used in horticulture and food industries. These hormones enhance longitudinal growth of internodes in dwarf plants. So this is widely used in horticulture and food industries. So the phytohormone widely used in horticulture and food industries is gibberellins. These hormones enhance the longitudinal growth of the internodes in dwarf plants. So the dwarf plants are very short. From the internodes, if the cell elongation occurs, it grows vertically, or as it is said, longitudinally. So the height increases. They are used commercially to increase the length of grapes, elongate apples, and improve their shape. So you mostly have seen grapes to be longer grapes and not round and small grapes. So gibberellins are used commercially in order to increase the length of grapes and elongate apples to improve their shape. Gibberellic acid is used to speed up the malting process in brewing industries. Next, we go on to another hormone, plant hormone, that is called cytokinin. The cytokinins have been discovered comparatively recently in the 1950s by Skoog and Miller. Cytokinins have specific effects on cell division. Cytokinins are widely distributed in plants. They are produced in root tips and are transported through xylem cells. So cytokinins have a special effect on cell division. Till now we had heard of cell elongation, now comes cell division. There's a specific effect on it. We'll come to it. Cytokinins are widely distributed in plants. Of course, since it is mainly a phytohormone that we are studying, they are produced in the root tips, mainly in the root tips, and are transported through the xylem cells. So the transportation of cytokinin occurs through the xylem cells. Comparatively, large amounts of cytokinins are found in germinating seeds, developing fruits, embryo, etc. Again, a few meristematic regions. In seeds, they cause the expansion of cotyledons. Okay, the cotyledons, the food storing parts of the seed, cytokinins cause expansion of those parts. Auxins and gibberellins stimulate growth by cell elongation, while cytokinins stimulate growth by cell division. This is a major difference when between these auxins and gibberellins and the cytokinins. So these are separate categories. Although all three of them cause growth, they stimulate growth, but the processes of inducing growth are different. Auxins and gibberellins go by cell elongation, while the cytokinins stimulate by cell division. Cytokinins inhibit apical dominance. So this cytokinin is against auxin. You have seen that auxins induce apical dominance, cytokinins inhibit or stop it. In addition to helping in cell division and expansion of cotyledons, cytokinins also help in cell elongation. Not that they don't do cell elongation, but their main mode is actually cell division. Promotion of chlorophyll synthesis in chloroplasts, this is an important function, and organ formation, the organs which a plant has. Next, we can move on to ethylene. Ethylene is the only hormone which is a gas at ordinary temperature. So this is a gaseous hormone. It is produced in fruits and remain in the same fruit. Therefore, unlike the other hormones, its site of synthesis and site of action are not different. We can go back and see this. I had told you that they are produced in one area of the plant, transported around the body of the plant, and then they have their effects at a location far away from the site of their production. In case of ethylene, this is not the same. In case of ethylenes, what happens is, in the fruit in which ethylene gets produced, it remains in the same fruit. So the site of synthesis, the site where this is produced, and the site where the hormone is supposed to act and cause a change is the same. A gas causing ripening of fruits was first found to be emanating from oranges, which helped in the ripening of bananas. So the oranges actually were ripening, so they produced this ethylene. This caused the ripening of bananas as well, which were stored together along with it. The gas was then found to be ethylene by Argane. Ethylene is produced in higher plants and fungi. All living cells are capable of producing ethylene, but more ethylene is produced in meristematic tissues. Ethylene causes two processes in plants: reduction in stem elongation and acceleration of senescence. You had seen there was inhibition of senescence. This causes acceleration of senescence. Senescence means aging. You must remember. So acceleration of this senescence means that the plant parts get aged earlier, means they get matured earlier. Besides, it also helps, okay, did I tell you the reduction of stem elongation? The other hormones that we read before were all causing stem elongation or the parts to elongate. This one does the opposite of it. It reduces the stem elongation. Besides, it also helps in ripening of fruits, initiating germination in peanut seeds, sprouting of potato tuber, promoting root growth and root hair formation, inducing flowering in mango. These points are pretty self-explanatory. You must remember a few of them as these. This is the function. This comes under the functions of this ethylene. Next, we'll come to the table a little later. First, let's see the complete thing of it. Thus, ethylene is the most widely used plant growth hormone in agriculture. Since this ethylene is in a gaseous state, and you had seen this was first discovered when oranges and bananas were kept together, and ripening oranges caused the ripening of bananas. So you can understand it's a pretty large effect with very few negatives. So this ethylene is very easy to use. So this is a very widely used plant growth hormone in agriculture. Next is abscisic acid, or ABA. That is a short form. Just remember, this may also come like that IAA, indole 3-acetic acid. Like that, this ABA might come and you may be asked to expand this. So remember, ABA is abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is a growth retarding hormone. So this is again a lot like ethylene. It stops the growth. This is against those growth hormones. Everything has to have an against as well to stop it. Otherwise, you can understand uncontrolled growth is never good. So this is to control that growth. So this is a growth retarding hormone. It is found in angiosperms, gymnosperms, pteridophytes, and some mosses. It is found in the chloroplasts of the leaves. The green portions, the chloroplasts of the leaves, that is where abscisic acid is found. Fruits and seeds contain the highest amount of abscisic acid. Like other plant growth hormones, it also has wide-ranging effects on plant growth and development. It acts as a general plant growth inhibitor and an inhibitor of plant metabolism. So in general, this inhibits, that is stops plant growth and also plant metabolism when required. So uh, stopping is this word is for your understanding. It's better that when you write it for exams or anything, it's better that you write the word inhibition or inhibiting instead of stopping it. ABA inhibits seed germination. So germination, in case this process has to be stopped, abscisic acid does the work. It accelerates senescence, that is aging. So the maturing of the plant occurs faster because of this, and abscission, that is falling of leaves. Abscission of leaves means falling of leaves. It's better that you use these terms like abscission and senescence because this is something like a key word in this part. So abscission of leaves, it stimulates the falling of leaves and other plant organs. Also, ABA stimulates the closure of stomata in the epidermis and increases the tolerance of plants to various kinds of stresses. So stresses can be things like a strong wind causing the tree to bend and then resisting against it. It can be many things that causes a plant to change its things internally. So it increases the tolerance of plants to various kinds of stresses. So therefore, this is also called the stress hormone. What is a stress hormone in us? Adrenaline, because it helps us to cope up with the stress or situation that we have come across. Similarly, this stress hormone for plants is abscisic acid. Abscisic acid also plays an important role in seed development, maturation, and dormancy. You see, all these hormones, they may have a main function, but their application is not limited to only one function. It has various other effects as well overall, even after the main function that they have. So, by inducing dormancy, ABA helps the seeds to withstand desiccation, extreme dryness, and other factors unfavorable for growth. So, when does the seed germinate? When it gets the suitable conditions around it, right? In case of this ABA, what happens is that this it induces dormancy so that the seed goes into a dormant stage and it doesn't get dried up. Dried up will of course kill the seed. So extreme dryness, this term is desiccation, and other factors that are unfavorable for growth. So it helps the seed to withstand all unfavorable conditions and wait for the time when it will get the suitable surroundings around it. In most situations, ABA acts in opposition to gibberellins. So you can see a chart where the site of synthesis and the functions of the plant hormones along with their names is given. You may pause the video and take notes, and after this we should move on. You can pause the video here and I'm moving on. So since we are done with the summary of the plant hormones, let us move on to another segment of this chapter called the tropic movements in plants. So the movements of these plants that take place due to the external stimuli, the direction of the response related to the direction from which the stimulus comes is called tropism. Okay, we will deal with the movements that occur because of these phytohormones and the situations around it, that reaction stimulus part. So the direction of the response is related to the direction from which the stimulus is coming. So stimulus coming from the left, the response towards the left or away from the left. These responses, this type of responses related to direction will be called tropism. The term tropic comes from the Greek word tropos, which means to turn. So the growth movements occurring in response to a unidirectional external stimuli in a plant pot are called tropic movements. Okay, so let's see the types of tropism. First is phototropism. From photo you can understand light is of course included. So phototropism means movement towards light. Plant growth in light, illuminating them from plants grown in light, illuminating them from all the directions, grow more or less upwards, that is more or less straight. But in case if the light is brighter on one side than the other side of the plant, that means the other side of the plant is in a somewhat comparative darkness, so this we call it the unilateral light, then the shoot of the plant will bend towards the increased light, the brighter light source. It will move towards that so that it gets more light, so that they're exposed more to the light. But if the roots are exposed, they will grow away from it, because the roots are the roots actually, you can say, habituated to the fact of being underground in darkness, away from the light. It grows always away from the light. So the shoots are called positively phototropic, since it shows a positive reaction to the light and moves towards the light. So it is a positively phototropic reaction. And the roots are actually negatively phototropic, because they are moving away from it. That is a negative reaction. So in all the cases of tropisms, whichever part moves towards the stimulus will be positively that tropic, and whatever is moving away from it will be negatively, whatever it is, negative tropism. You can see this activity, you probably have heard about it before, like keeping a potted plant in a dark room and letting the sunlight come from just one window so the plant bends toward it. If you have plants around you, then you probably have experimented this already or felt this already. So we understand the role of auxins in bending the shoots here. We had told you, right, that auxin causes the growth of the cell in one plate. This is the first page. So here what happens is, in this situation where this auxin causes the growth and bending, what happens is the auxins get accumulated on the darker side of the shoot, resulting in rapid cell division. So the let's see it from this picture only. Follow my mouse, the pointer. This part of the plant, you can understand, is in a darker state than this one. So what happens is the auxins get accumulated on the darker side. This part of it, the auxins get accumulated, and what does auxin do? It causes cell elongation. So what happens is, this part of it grows, while this part doesn't. The part facing the light does not grow because the auxins are not there. So what happens is if one side the part is not growing and the other side is growing, so what happens is it gets bent towards the side which is not growing. So since this is shorter and this is getting longer, so you can understand it will bend towards the light. It's a very beautiful mechanism that these plants have. So this causes the bending of the shoot towards the window or the source of light. Next is geotropism. The term geotropism means growing towards the Earth's gravity. It is also called gravitrotropism. So another name for geotropism is gravitrotropism. Remember this. And organs which grow towards gravity are positively geotropic, like the root. The root always grows downwards into the soil. It tries to go there, so it's positively geotropic. That grows, and the ones that grow away from the gravity. The gravity is pulling down, of course, and the stems you see grow up and higher. So these are negatively geotropic as it is away from gravity. You can see this potted plant, a healthy potted plant, and if it is thrown over or like it falls over, what happens is you can see this shape change in the plant. What happens is the root grows downwards, and this portion, since it was already grown from here, the stem portion starts growing, bending and going above, goes above and grows vertically, while this goes vertically downwards. So roots are positively geotropic and the shoot is negatively geotropic. The response of plants to gravity can be observed in the laboratory when the seedlings are placed in a pot filled with moist soil. The figures given above I just showed you. The shoots show negative geotropism, the roots show positive geotropism. Again, this is good for the normal growth of the seedling since the roots need to grow down into the soil and the shoots need to grow up towards the sunlight. This is the common experiment of growing a kidney bean plant to see that the roots are growing down and the shoot is getting pushed up. Okay. Let's go to Geotropism. The growth movement of plants in response to touch stimulus is called Geotropism. Some interesting responses are seen in case of touch. So, let's show you. Plants like sweet peas, cuscuta, and vines have tendrils which coil around other plants in response to one-sided contact or touch. Stimulus is perceived by the tendril tips and then it is transmitted to the basal parts. In this way, entire tendril becomes sensitive to the stimulus. After receiving the stimulus, tendril starts twining around the support. Observe the weak-stemmed pea plants growing in the field. The thread-like tendrils twine around the support available in the field to the pea plants. The tendrils provide a well-known example of Geotropism. So what it does is it feels this way, and as soon as it finds something stable, uh, since this tendril, as soon as it touches something stable, the tendril tends to coil around it for support, and that's how it keeps growing. So this is a very good example of Geotropism. Next is hydrotropism. The movement of plant parts in response to water is hydrotropism. The roots is said to be positively hydrotropic and the shoot is said to be negatively hydrotropic because roots grow towards water. They grow down, deep down the soil in search of water, while the stems stay above it, stay away from it since the root is already doing the part of getting water to it. So the root is positively hydrotropic and the shoot is negatively hydrotropic. The final tropism that we have to study is chemotropism. Chemotropism is the phenomenon of growth of plant organs in response to chemicals. For example, the movement of the pollen tube of the angiosperms and gymnosperms towards sugars and peptones secreted by the neck canal cells of the female gametophyte is an example of chemotropism. You can see this female gametophyte will release some peptones and sugars which will actually attract and help this pollen tube to grow and reach to it. So this is an example of chemotropism. The movement of tentacles in Drosera towards the source of nutrition is another chemotropic phenomenon, since this nutrition can be considered as the chemical, and of course the tentacles of it are moving towards it. So it is a chemotropic phenomenon. So this is the end of the chapter. This is a little summary of it if you wish to see the summary. This is the summary of your chapter, the points. You may take notes from here if you wish, then pause it. So we ended another chapter from past tense biology. So like, comment, subscribe. If you have any doubts, you may put them down in the comment section. I will definitely see to it, and share it to people whom I might be able to help. Share it to friends you know who are studying in class 10 and they might need this. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.